Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going on a deep dive into Blissland.
Yeah, Blissland.
It's a concept that David Christopher Lane explores in his book.
Blissland, Glimpses of Cosmic Consciousness.
Right, Blissland, Glimpses of Cosmic Consciousness.
Mm.
And we're going to use his book as our guide, kind of like a compass, as we explore this idea and try to uncover what this Blissland might actually be all about.
Right.
We've got some fascinating sources to draw from.
Yeah.
Personal anecdotes, religious texts, even some neuroscience.
That's a lot, right.
Yeah, quite a mix. To give you just to see how these different perspectives come together.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like putting together a puzzle, you know?
Yeah, a puzzle. I like that analogy.
Trying to understand these intensely personal experiences through all these different lenses, philosophical, religious, scientific.
Exactly. It's going to be a fun challenge.
It is.
And Lane starts us off with a really interesting approach, I think.
Okay.
He uses a pretty relatable analogy to try to explain this Blissland concept to his son.
Oh, interesting.
And it's surfing.
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 Right, yeah.
You know that feeling when you're riding a wave and you just like lose yourself in the moment?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Time slows down.
Absolutely.
You're just completely absorbed.
Mm-hmm.
Lane connects this to the concept of samadhi.
Samadhi?
Yeah, it's a state of ecstatic unity that's described in many different mystical traditions.
Oh, right, right.
And I can see the connection.
Yeah.
Think about those moments when you're so engrossed in something that everything else just fades away.
Yeah, you're just totally present.
Yeah, you're completely present.
In the flow.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the flow, completely absorbed. Maybe that's like a tiny taste of what these mystics are describing, right?
Yeah, precisely. And Lane, he uses Sri Ramakrishna as a really powerful example.
Okay, Sri Ramakrishna.
Yeah, he was a 19th century mystic.
Okay.
And he was said to have experienced samadhi just from witnessing the beauty of a flock of cranes.
Wow.
Flying against a stormy sky.
Just from seeing that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Imagine that. Just a simple moment of beauty.
Yeah.
Triggering such a profound experience.
Really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
About the power of these moments that kind of take you out of yourself.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a second, you know.
You're just completely there.
You're just completely there.
Yeah.
But Lane takes it a step further, right?
He does, yeah.
He brings in the neuroscientist Sam Harris.
Sam Harris, okay.
And the idea that our sense of self might actually be an illusion.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
It is.
Think about those optical illusions where you see something that isn't really there.
Yeah, yeah.
Harris argues that our sense of self is kind of like that.
Okay.
A construct of our minds.
So not a solid, independent entity.
Right, not this solid, independent thing that we think it is.
Interesting.
It's more like a perception, maybe even a trick that our minds are playing on us.
Huh. That's a really interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, we experience ourselves as these distinct individuals.
Right, of course.
But what if that's just a perception? What if that's not the whole story?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is. And if our sense of self is an illusion, maybe these mystical experiences are about transcending that illusion.
Like breaking free.
Yeah, breaking free. Tapping into something larger, something beyond our individual boundaries.
Okay, so we've got this concept of Blissland.
Right.
This potential state of being where we kind of break free from our limited sense of self.
Right.
But what does that actually look like, you know?
Yeah, what does it feel like?
Lane introduces this term, cosmic consciousness, to describe it.
Cosmic consciousness.
It's a term coined by Richard Maurice Buck.
Okay.
And it refers to this transcendent state of awareness where you go beyond your normal sense of self.
So it's not just about losing yourself.
No, it's about connecting to something much bigger, much vaster.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's about feeling deeply connected to something that transcends your individual limitations.
That's really interesting.
It is.
And Lane finds echoes of this idea across many different cultures and religions, right?
Absolutely. He sees it as a universal human experience.
A universal human experience.
Yeah.
So it's not limited to any one tradition or belief system.
Not at all. Think about those moments when you feel a sense of awe and wonder.
Awe and wonder.
Like standing under a star-filled sky.
Yeah, yeah.
Or listening to a piece of music that really moves you deeply. Rudolf Otto, in his book, The Idea of the Holy.
Oh, okay.
He describes this feeling as mysterium tremendum.
Mysterium tremendum. Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is, but it basically means a sense of awe and wonder in the face of the sacred, the holy.
I like that.
And Lane argues that this feeling might be pointing us towards this cosmic consciousness.
Oh, I see. So it's like this,
Like a little hint.
yeah, hint, like a little taste of something bigger.
Exactly.
So it's this universal human experience, this longing for something beyond ourselves, just expressed in different ways.
Yeah, through different traditions, different practices, different experiences.
Okay, now it's getting really intriguing.
It is, right?
So we've got this concept of bliss land, this potential state of cosmic consciousness. But that brings up another question.
Okay, what's that?
How do people actually get there?
Ah, the million-dollar question.
Right. Is there a set path, a specific formula?
Well, that's where it gets even more fascinating.
Okay.
Lane cautions us against oversimplification.
Oversimplification.
Yeah, against thinking that there's one right way to get there.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. He emphasizes the diversity of these experiences.
Diversity.
They can happen through near-death experiences, through deep meditation, through spontaneous awakenings.
Spontaneous awakening.
Yeah, it's not like following a recipe, you know?
So it's more about individual journeys and unique paths.
Precisely. And Lane points out that consciousness is a spectrum.
A separate sector.
Not a binary, you know? It's not about being enlightened or unenlightened.
Oh, I see.
But about exploring the vast possibilities of awareness and perception.
That makes sense.
It does.
And Lane highlights meditative practices, especially those from Indian traditions, as being particularly helpful in this exploration, right?
He does, yeah.
So meditation can be seen as a tool, like a way to quiet the mind and create the space for these glimpses of bliss land.
Think of it like training your attention.
Okay, training your attention.
Yeah, our experience is shaped by where we direct our attention.
That's true.
If we're constantly bombarded by thoughts, worries, distractions,
Right.
it's hard to experience anything beyond that mental noise.
Yeah, it's like trying to see the stars in a city full of light pollution.
Exactly. But when we learn to calm the mind, we might be able to perceive things differently.
It's like clearing the static.
Yeah, clearing the static so you can tune into a different frequency.
I love that analogy.
It's a good one.
So we've got this concept of bliss land, this potential state of cosmic consciousness.
Right.
But what does it actually feel like to be there?
That's the big question, right?
It is. Fortunately, Lane includes a bunch of personal accounts in his book.
He does.
Let's hear what these journeys have been like for those who claim to have experienced bliss land firsthand.
Let's. And Lane starts us off with a pretty remarkable account.
Okay.
The experience of Richard Maurice Buck himself.
Richard Maurice Buck. Wait, the guy who coined the term cosmic consciousness?
The one and only.
Wow.
And get this, he had his aha moment after an evening of reading poetry with friends.
Reading in poetry.
Poetry, Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats, Whitman.
Oh, talk about inspiration.
Right.
Wait, so just hanging out with friends, reading poetry, and boom, cosmic consciousness.
That's how it went down, apparently.
That's pretty wild.
That is.
What did Buck actually experience during that moment?
He describes feeling enveloped by this flame-colored cloud.
A flame-colored cloud.
Yeah, an internal light that brought him immense joy and a profound sense of knowing. It wasn't just an emotional experience, though.
Okay.
He claimed to have grasped fundamental truths about the universe in those few moments.
Like what?
Like the fact that the universe is a living presence.
Wow.
That love is the foundation of everything, and that ultimately everyone's happiness is certain.
That's a lot to take in.
It is.
Talk about a life-altering experience.
Right.
It's amazing to think that these profound insights can emerge so suddenly.
Yeah.
Even without years of dedicated practice, you know.
Makes you wonder about the potential for spontaneous awakenings, doesn't it?
It does. And it challenges our assumptions about how these experiences happen. Maybe we don't always need years of intense meditation or spiritual practice to access these states.
Maybe there's an element of grace involved.
Grace.
Yeah, of unexpected revelation.
That's incredibly hopeful.
It is.
And it makes me even more curious about these other accounts that Lane includes. Each one offers a unique glimpse into this realm of bliss land.
Yeah, like different pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. Where should we go next on this journey?
Well, let's dive into the world of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Paramahansa Yogananda, okay.
The author of Autobiography of a Yogi.
Yeah.
And see what his experience with cosmic consciousness was like.
Okay, let's do it.
Yogananda's account is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Because his experience with cosmic consciousness wasn't spontaneous.
Oh, okay.
It was actually induced by his guru, Sri Yukteswar.
So someone could actually trigger that kind of experience in another person?
That's what the account suggests.
Wow.
Imagine that, you know?
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Someone being able to trigger that kind of profound experience in another person.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the role of guidance and mentorship on these journeys.
It does.
So there's this deliberate aspect to it. It wasn't just a random occurrence.
Right.
This guru knew how to access these states and could somehow share that ability with others.
It's pretty amazing.
It is. And it's described so simply, too.
Right.
Sri Yukteswar just touched Yogananda on the chest.
Just a touch.
And that touch seems to have been the catalyst for this incredible out-of-body experience.
It's hard to even wrap your mind around it.
It is. A simple touch.
Yeah.
Leading to such a radical shift in perception.
It's like something out of a movie.
It is.
But it speaks to the power of these ancient traditions and the potential for accessing these different states of consciousness.
So what did Yogananda actually experience during this cosmic consciousness state?
Well, he described it as complete liberation from his physical body.
Oh, wow.
His awareness expanded beyond the limitations of his senses.
So he wasn't bound by his physical body anymore?
Not at all.
What did that feel like? What did he see or perceive?
He could see people on distant streets. He could perceive the inner workings of plants. He even observed a cow walking behind a wall.
No way.
All without using his physical sight.
That's incredible.
It is.
It's like developing superhuman abilities. Some kind of extrasensory perception.
It's pretty wild, right?
It is. Did he describe it as frightening at all?
That's a good question.
Or overwhelming? It seems like it could be a lot to handle.
You'd think so, right? But no, Yogananda described it as incredibly blissful.
Blissful.
Yeah.
Even with all that sensory input coming in.
Yeah, he perceived the universe as this luminous sea of light.
A sea of light.
With galaxies and constellations forming and dissolving within his own being.
So it wasn't about feeling lost or disoriented.
No.
It was more about a sense of
profound interconnectedness.
Interconnectedness.
With everything.
That's beautiful.
It is.
To experience that kind of unity, that oneness with the entire universe.
Yeah.
It's like hard to even imagine.
The boundaries between self and other just completely dissolved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It does.
But we were talking earlier about how there isn't just one path to these experiences, right? Not all accounts describe such a blissful, expansive state.
Yeah, take John Wren Lewis, for example.
John Wren Lewis, okay.
A scholar of religion who had a near-death experience in Thailand.
Okay.
His experience was quite different from the typical NDEs we hear about.
In what way?
Well, for one, he didn't have the classic out-of-body experience or visions of a tunnel of light.
So not the typical near-death experience.
No.
What did he experience?
He entered the state of timeless, spaceless void.
A void?
A void.
What was that like?
He describes it as total aliveness.
Total aliveness. Okay.
And dazzling darkness.
Dazzling darkness.
Yeah.
That sounds almost like a paradox.
It does, doesn't it?
How did he explain that?
He struggled to put it into words.
Well, yeah, I can imagine.
As so many of these experiencers do.
Right.
But he emphasized that it wasn't a feeling of nothingness. It was a sense of profound fullness and peace.
Fullness and peace?
Beyond anything he could have imagined. And what's really striking is that unlike many who have NDEs, he didn't feel any regret about returning to his physical body.
So he wasn't clinging to this experience, wanting to stay in that state.
Nope, he embraced coming back to this reality.
That's really interesting.
It is, isn't it?
It suggests that maybe the transformation wasn't about escaping this world.
Right.
But about seeing it differently.
Exactly. He describes it as a permanent shift in consciousness.
A permanent shift.
Yeah. He still felt connected to that dazzling darkness, that underlying reality.
Even while going about his daily life.
Even while going about his daily life.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
It's as if he glimpsed something essential about existence. Something he couldn't forget.
Yeah.
Even after returning to ordinary awareness.
It's powerful, isn't it?
It is. These accounts are so diverse, each offering its own unique perspective.
Yeah, like we were saying before, there's no one path.
Right.
There's no one right way to have this kind of experience.
And they're not all about blissful light and expansion.
No, they can be about darkness, void, stillness.
I'm curious about those other examples that Lane touches on.
Yeah, me too.
He brings in voices from across cultures and historical periods, right?
He does. It's as if he's trying to show us
Right.
the universality of these experiences.
Okay.
The fact that they're not limited to any particular time, place, or spiritual tradition.
I love that. So it's not just a modern phenomenon
Yeah.
or something that only happens in Eastern cultures.
No, not at all.
It's something that humans have been experiencing for centuries
Mm-hmm.
all over the world.
Exactly.
What are some of those other accounts?
Well, he quotes J.A. Symonds,
J.A. Symonds, okay.
a 19th century poet
Okay.
who describes experiencing a pure, absolute, abstract self.
A pure, absolute, abstract self. Whoa.
After a gradual fading of space, time, and sensation.
So it's like the boundaries of the self dissolve,
Mm-hmm.
and you're left with this pure awareness.
That's the idea.
No separation between you and the world anymore.
Right. It's all one.
Then there's Ramakrishna.
Ramakrishna, who we talked about
earlier.
Yeah, the one who had these frequent states of samadhi.
Right. His disciples would recount how he would just become completely absorbed in this state,
Yeah.
losing his ability to speak
Mm-hmm.
or interact with the world around him.
Like he was stepping into a completely different reality.
Yeah, leaving behind the constraints of ordinary consciousness.
Exactly.
And Ramakrishna himself acknowledged the challenge
Right.
of trying to describe these experiences.
They're beyond language, aren't they?
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the limits of language, right?
It does. Maybe there are experiences so profound, so far outside our normal range of perception,
Mhm.
that words simply can't capture them.
It's like trying to describe the taste of chocolate to someone who's never had it before.
Yeah. Exactly. You can use all the words in the world,
Yeah,
but they won't truly understand until they've tasted it for themselves.
right.
And maybe it's the same with these mystical experiences.
We can talk about them, we can read about them,
Yeah,
but to truly understand them, you have to experience them.
that's a great point.
But going back to those diverse accounts,
Okay.
are there any others that particularly stand out to you?
Yes. Lane also talks about Narendra, who later became known as Swami Vivekananda,
Swami Vivekananda.
a key figure in bringing Vedanta philosophy to the West.
Okay.
And he had this incredibly powerful, spontaneous enlightenment experience.
Spontaneous. Wow. So it just kind of hit him out of the blue.
That's how it seems, yeah.
What happened?
It was so intense that he temporarily lost awareness of his body.
Oh, wow.
His fellow disciples actually thought he had died.
Oh, no. That's a pretty intense reaction.
It is, isn't it? But his guru, Sri Ramakrishna, seemed to know exactly what was happening.
Oh, interesting.
The account suggests that Ramakrishna had anticipated this breakthrough
Really?
and reassured the other disciples that Narendra was simply experiencing a profound state of unity.
Wow. So the guru knew this was coming.
Yeah, it's another example of the role that guidings and mentorship can play on these journeys.
It's fascinating how these experiences can be so powerful, even for those around the person having them.
Yeah, they can ripple outward, can't they?
So far, we've explored different paths to bliss land, from spontaneous awakenings to guru-induced experiences.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
What else does Lane delve into in his book?
Well, he explores the fascinating role of sound in mystical experiences.
Oh, interesting.
For example, he cites Saint Bernard,
St. Bernard.
a 12th century monk
Okay.
who describes a transformative encounter with the Word.
Is he talking about the word in the biblical sense?
It's definitely open to interpretation,
Okay.
but Saint Bernard describes it as a profound presence
Mm-hmm.
that entered his soul, bringing a sense of divine truth and knowledge.
So it wasn't something he heard with his physical ears.
No, it was a purely inner experience.
It reminds me of those moments when you suddenly grasp something deeply,
Yeah.
even though you can't explain it logically.
Right, it's like an intuitive knowing.
Yeah, an intuitive knowing that goes beyond words.
Or rational thought.
Exactly. It's a knowing that comes from a different place, a different mode of perception.
Lane also highlights Inayat Khan, a Sufi mystic,
Okay, Inayat Khan.
who discussed this concept of Saudi Sarmad.
Saudi Sarma. Okay.
What's that? He called it the abstract sound that mystics hear.
Abstract sound. That's intriguing.
It sounds almost like a paradox.
It does. What did he mean by that?
He describes it as a sound too subtle to be perceived by our physical ears.
Like-
That can be heard internally during deep meditation or mystical states.
Interesting.
And he connects it to the experiences of figures like Muhammad, Moses, and Christ.
So it's like this universal sound.
Yeah.
A vibration that connects us to the divine.
or to the source of all things.
That's a beautiful idea.
It is, isn't it?
And Khan suggests that tuning into this sound can lead to profound insights and a state of ecstatic union.
It's fascinating how this concept of an inner sound, of a divine vibration, appears across so many different traditions.
It does. It points to something beyond our ordinary senses, right?
Absolutely.
A dimension of reality that we might only glimpse under certain conditions.
It's like there's a whole other world out there
Right.
that we're usually oblivious to.
Speaking of different traditions, Lane also explores the Tibetan Book of the Dead, right?
He does.
What insights does he draw from that?
He highlights the book's detailed instructions for navigating the death process and encountering the clear light.
The clear light,
which is described as one's own true nature.
Oh, interesting.
The essence of consciousness itself.
So it's not like an external light.
No, it's something within us.
It's our own inherent nature.
Exactly. And what's so intriguing about the Tibetan Book of the Dead is that it presents these teachings not just as abstract philosophy, but as practical guidance.
Guidance for what?
For what to expect during the death process.
Oh, wow.
And how to navigate those experiences.
So it's like a guidebook for the dying.
In a way, yes.
Helping them recognize their own inherent Buddha nature.
Yeah, that luminous awareness that lies at the core of their being.
But is it really just for the dying?
It's a good question.
Can we glean anything from those teachings while we're still alive?
Absolutely. The book emphasizes the importance of recognizing this clear light as the key to liberation.
Liberation from what?
From the cycle of death and rebirth.
Okay.
And while it's traditionally seen as something you encounter at the moment of death, many Buddhist practitioners believe that you can access this clear light through deep meditation.
Oh, interesting.
And cultivate that recognition while you're still alive.
So it's like preparing for death by awakening to the true nature of your being while you're still embodied.
Exactly. It suggests that these mystical experiences aren't just about personal enlightenment. They can have implications for our understanding of life, death, and what lies beyond.
It's about recognizing the continuity of consciousness.
Yeah.
The fact that this awareness that we experience doesn't just vanish when the body dies.
And Lane brings us back to Yogananda's experience. To tie all of these themes together in his conclusion.
Okay, let's revisit Yogananda. What does Lane highlight in his analysis of that experience?
Well, he points out the factors that seem to have prepared Yogananda for this profound state.
Like what?
His longing to meet Himalayan masters. His dedicated spiritual practice under the guidance of his guru. Even the challenges and setbacks he faced.
So all of it, the good and the bad.
Exactly. All of these experiences seem to have created the fertile ground for his spiritual breakthrough.
It's like his entire life, all his struggles and aspirations were leading up to that moment.
Yeah, to that moment of cosmic consciousness.
And it wasn't just about his inner world, right? Lane also acknowledges the physical aspects of Yogananda's experience.
He does.
The physical paralysis, the altered breathing, the sensations of light and expansion.
Right. It's as if the body itself is participating in this transformation.
Wow. So these experiences aren't just happening in the mind. They have a tangible physical component as well.
Exactly.
And Lane draws parallels with modern near-death experiences.
He does.
Noting the similarities in the journey, the light, the sense of unity.
Yeah, and he even makes connections to psychedelic experiences.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
He cites Aldous Huxley's mescaline experience. And the sense of expanded awareness and interconnectedness that it brought.
So it's as if these different pathways, meditation, near-death experiences, psychedelics, are all tapping into a similar underlying reality.
That's a great way to put it.
Just accessing it through different doors.
Exactly.
This raises the question, if we're all capable of accessing this expanded awareness, what's holding us back?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Is it just a matter of finding the right technique, the right teacher, or the right substance?
Right.
Or is there something deeper at play?
That's a question worth exploring.
It is.
And it leads us to Lane's concluding thoughts about the implications of these experiences. He reminds us that while we might question the interpretations of these experiences, the fact remains that these individuals had profound shifts in consciousness.
Right, they experience something.
Yeah, it's like they glimpsed something beyond the everyday, beyond our ordinary ways of seeing and knowing.
He's not saying we have to accept every interpretation or explanation.
Right, but he's urging us to consider the possibility that these experiences might be pointing us towards something real.
Something real, even if we can't fully explain it.
Exactly, even if it doesn't fit neatly into our current scientific understanding.
He sees these accounts as evidence of the incredible potential of human consciousness.
Absolutely.
Maybe we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what's possible.
It's like we're exploring this vast, uncharted territory.
Ooh, I like that. Uncharted territory.
And these mystical experiences are like those early explorers, you know, venturing into new lands, bringing back tales of what they've seen.
But what does that mean for us?
Right.
For those of us who haven't had these profound mystical experiences, are we just left wondering what we're missing?
Well, not necessarily. Lane encourages us to explore this potential within ourselves.
Within ourselves?
Yeah, to cultivate inner awareness.
How do we do that?
Through practices like meditation, yoga, or even just spending time in nature.
So it's not just about these grand mystical experiences.
Right.
It's about cultivating a certain kind of attention.
Exactly, a certain kind of awareness
in our everyday lives.
Yeah, and maybe even if we don't have those dramatic, life-altering experiences, there are hints of blissland.
Okay, hints of blissland.
In our everyday lives, moments that point us toward that deeper reality.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is, isn't it?
But maybe it's all around us if we just know how to see it.
Lane actually hints at that.
Oh, yeah.
By referencing a poem by Emily Dickinson.
Emily Dickinson, okay.
She compares the brain to the sky and the sea.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is, suggesting that it holds the vastness of God.
So it's like our minds are capable of containing this immense depth, this connection to something larger than ourselves.
Even if we don't always realize it.
It makes me think about those times when I've felt a deep sense of peace and connection, like everything is in harmony.
Right.
Could those be whispers of this cosmic consciousness?
It's certainly possible. And it brings up an important question.
Okay, what's that?
How do we cultivate those moments?
That is the question, isn't it?
If Blissland isn't just a destination, but a way of being, a way of perceiving reality, then how do we shift our perspective to access that more often?
Maybe it's not about achieving some grand enlightenment.
Right.
But about paying attention to those subtle shifts.
Yeah, those subtle shifts.
The awareness.
Those moments when we feel a sense of expansion. Of interconnectedness.
Even if it's fleeting.
Exactly. It's like training ourselves to notice the extraordinary within the ordinary.
I love that.
It's a beautiful way to think about it.
Lane doesn't provide all the answers.
No, but he gives us a lot to think about.
He does.
He invites us to consider the possibility that Blissland isn't some far-off place.
Right.
But a potential within us all.
Within us all.
Something we can cultivate and explore through various paths.
Through various paths. I like that.
It's a call to adventure.
A call to adventure.
To embark on that inner journey of discovery.
To pay attention.
To those moments when the veil lifts and we catch a glimpse of something truly extraordinary.
Well, that's a beautiful place to leave it, I think.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
On this deep dive into Blissland.
It's been a fascinating journey.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to continue this exploration on your own.
Yeah, pick up Lane's book.
Delve into those mystical accounts.
And, most importantly, pay attention.
Yes, pay attention.
To those moments in your own life when you catch a glimpse of something more.
Something more.
Something that points you toward that potential for Blissland within.
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
Thanks again for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.